Well, hello and hello. Welcome to the Women Conquer Business Show. I'm Jen McFarland, to be joined shortly by Shelley Carney. She had a computer malfunction right before showtime. That's the thing about going live is if the other person can't make it, sometimes you have to do things a little solo. So today on the show, we'll be talking about how to automate daily tasks to increase business productivity. I love this kind of thing. We have been ramping up into this for the last 3 weeks, I think, where we've talked first about why productivity is important to your business, like why wouldn't you want to be as efficient as possible getting products out the door? Then we talked about how to calculate productivity. So we tend to make productivity a one-to-one with things like time management when really there are so many factors that go into what makes your business productive and efficient, and including how much you're charging versus how much it costs for you to get products out the door. Remember that time is part of the factor, how many people, all of these different things. So we've talked about that a lot. And in the meantime, we've infused all of that talk of productivity around like different things you could be doing so that you can analyze what's going on. Like you can do a time audit, you can really pay attention to whether you have some standard operating procedures that you've been writing down and integrating into your workflow so that you know what you're doing. You can kind of be tracking how long it's taking you. If things are taking longer than expected, that takes us to what we're talking about today, which is how to automate your tasks so that you can save a little bit of time. Now, going into this, we have to think about, how much of the pre-work we've done because if we don't really know how long things are taking, sometimes it can be a little bit challenging to figure out like how you're really going to increase productivity. So when I talk to people about this, I guess I'm just launching right into the training. So much for the show flow. Hey, Shelly. So when I work with people about things like how to automate tasks, oftentimes people come in and they're like, none of the apps are talking to each other. I don't really know what it is that I need to do. I really hate doing XYZ. It seems like a lot of people that I talk to really the onboarding process a lot of times for a new client, since I work a lot with service-based businesses, sometimes the onboarding process for a new client can be a heavy lift. You have a new person and you want to bring them in under that gold standard. You want them to come in and feel super welcome and understand exactly how you do what you do best. So onboarding is a place though where you have maybe forms you need to send out to someone. You need them to understand what it's like to schedule appointments, how to do it, where, when, all of these kinds of things. And there's maybe a back and forth. So a lot of times I ask people to like if they have a checklist. A lot of people don't. If they have ways that they're tracking this that they can make it more efficient, these are the things that you need to pay attention to, things that you have to do over and over again. These are often mundane tasks. These are things that if you don't get them done, there's going to be a problem. And these are the types of places where you can be looking to get more efficient. This is not where you take something super complicated and try to automate it. It's also not a place where if something is broken, you're trying to fix it with automation. I can't remember who said it, but there are all these quotes out there about like the fastest way to like make things worse is to automate a broken process. Like automation doesn't cure everything. It's not a panacea for all of the problems and all of the ills of the world. What automation for your daily tasks can do is really amplify the good, and it can really, but it can also amplify the bad. That's why you don't want to do that. And it really is an opportunity for efficiency because most people don't like doing the simple mundane stuff over that you repeat over and over again. Most people don't like to do that. They like to do what their favorite thing is. That's why you do things like, oh, I should probably outsource things like bookkeeping. That's an example for me. I like to outsource numbers because I don't like doing that. I'd rather be creative. So it's about kind of making sure that you're looking at the things that are mundane that you have to do over and over again. And that also, that third thing is that you know what looks right to you, meaning you know what the best process is and you've been doing it again and again. These are things that you are very accustomed to doing. These are things that you've maybe done a million times and you've kind of got it down to a science. Now it's like taking the load off by automating it just so that you can make it easier. Because if you think about productivity, we've talked about this definition a few times, being like how long it takes you to deliver goods and services. You want to onboard a person who's new as quickly as possible. You want to get products out the door as quickly as possible. You want to focus on the meat of the work that you're doing, not on all of these extra tasks out there that maybe, double entry things that are really hard to do. You don't want to focus on all of those things. So, one of the ways that you can do that is you make sure that you know all of the things that are mundane, all of these little tasks, and then you go and you find ways and opportunities for you to automate it. So, one of the things, and it's really key here, one of the things that's really important is to make sure that you are automating repeatable processes. Automation doesn't work if you are looking at things that are not repeatable, things that are different every single time. So you may be like, for us, we put together a podcast every week. Now, you can't predict everything. Like, I couldn't predict that Shelley's computer would not work 5 minutes before the show. But we do prepare and we have a list of things. And then what we've done on the back end of the podcast is we've automated as much as possible. So we send out the show, we do it live, and it automatically goes to YouTube and all these different platforms using StreamYard. And then we're using other platforms to make it simpler to get the show up on the web and all the other places. So this is an example of how you can automate something. We're repeating this process over and over again, how you can automate it. You can do this with any client process, like I said. You can do this with payments. Like sometimes, I'll work with people and they still have like a manual payment process. People really like to do things that are not manual. So people really like to pay online. And even though there is a service fee, you want to make that as easy as possible. You want to automate sending out invoices in the middle of the month, at the end of the month, whenever. You want to automate the process for people signing contracts. I have an automation where somebody signs a contract, it immediately follows up with an invoice because the work doesn't start until people pay. These are opportunities to make things that are mundane and repeatable streamlined so that they'll work better, faster, and help you deliver services in a more efficient manner. There are other people who they'll do an e-commerce, for example. You're selling products out of your website, but it's not an efficient process. Maybe you are selling something and then you have to box it up and you have to ship it. There are so many opportunities in that supply chain where you can make things quicker. Are you using, if you have a storefront and a website, are you using something like Shopify or BigCommerce so that you have a point of sale system where people can buy and then you also have online purchasing? And then is that connected to something like ShipStation, or how is the back end of the shipping process working? This is when you really can figure out your productivity. If it takes a long time for something to go from beginning to end, that's a real sign that you need to work on productivity, on a real sign that you need to shore up some of the efficiencies in your business so that you can be working better, faster, stronger if you want. So these are some of the tasks that I recommend. Now, there are, in fact, a lot of tools out there, a lot of apps. I think next week we're going to talk more about apps and whether or not they really help you through increasing your productivity. And the answer is yes, and not always. Again, it has a lot to do with what it is that you're trying to automate, what it is that you're trying to do. I think Shelley is joining the program. Hello, Shelley.
Hello.
Oh,
How'd it
sounds
go?
sounds like you got to
Can she
change
hear
your
me?
mic there.
Uh-oh. Mic's not working right.
Mic's not working right.
Okay.
We're having live technical difficulties here on the Women Conquer Business Show. Happens periodically. Shelley lost her computer connection
Said the mic's
right
not
before we
working
went
right.
live, and now the mic isn't working right. So, so what we're doing now, I kind of paused her mic here for just a second to see if they can get that fixed. Um, I'll just kind of head into the breaking news since I kind of skipped ahead into the training since that's what I like to do. That's like my favorite part. So I'll back up a little bit. In the breaking news section segment, there are two big things on the Pinterest front. Pinterest seems to really be accelerating a lot of things ever since they went live with their went out onto the stock market and went public. They seem to be making all kinds of strides toward putting their product out there and making it into kind of a premier e-commerce site. They have Pinterest in-app checkout, and that I believe is specifically for Shopify users who then are also doing Pinterest. And then Shelly also has some breaking news on the Pinterest front.
All
How's the
right.
mic working?
Can you hear me now? Is it working?
No, it's still like the super echoey kind.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Will you talk about this?
So I'll talk about this. So Pinterest has launched the capacity to download your
He says
idea
it's
pins. Oh
echoey.
wow, and share them in other apps. Now, with a Pinterest watermark, of course. But that makes sense because for the longest time you haven't been able to do that, and it's been kind of a yeah, I mean, I used Pinterest for a long time. I've used Pinterest to drive a lot of traffic to my website. All of these changes in Pinterest are great, but they seem to be wreaking a lot of havoc on the algorithm. And Pinterest, it seems to me that it's moving more and more to a pay to play platform. I think that that's really common as stock prices go up. Then you have to like answer to shareholders and things like that. And they're also trying to make traction, with all of the video, all of the Pinterest TV, all of the video pins, now the idea pins. It's always been a great place for things like listicles and things like that. They're trying to really bolster that and make it so that you can share things with the Pinterest logo on it, kind of like, you can do that on TikTok too. I think everybody's seen TikTok videos kind of all over the place. So this is really exciting. Pinterest is wonderful because so many people use Pinterest. It's the third largest search engine, and people use it to do search. They use it to find things like recipes and all kinds of stuff like that. So why not make it so that you can download your idea pins and share them somewhere else? I mean, it just makes sense, right?
That's right.
Shelly's back.
Feel better? Okay.
Here
Yay.
we are. Ta-da!
It only took one morning to get there.
So, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Little, snafu at the beginning. Always get your blood going, right?
Oh wow, we had Bacon and Julia, and I didn't see comments because I was so like struggle bussy
Yes,
trying to
that's
figure
right.
out what's going on. So
So,
how are you doing?
well, let me tell you about my weekend. Toby and I went to the Van Gogh immersive experience on Sunday, and it's pretty cool. I wrote about it in my LinkedIn newsletter and my email newsletter. So, but I'll share it here just in case anybody missed out on that. Toby and I were driving to the experience together, and he was complaining about an invisible paper cut on his finger, and he's like, "Oh, my finger hurts, and whenever I press it," and I'm like, "Oh, that's too bad. That must really hurt. You know, my husband has cancer," and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Like, we kind of laughed about, how we get in our own worlds, and everything in our world is magnified when we don't have anybody to talk to and compare with.
Oh
So
yeah.
that was kind of a fun little story that happened over the weekend. And how are you doing? How's your
Um, this was like the weirdest show for me to be um, flying solo at the last minute. Over the weekend, I hung out with some really cool women from She Podcasts, actually, women in Seattle and then in Portland. Although all of the Portland people were lame, and I was the only one who came and drove from Portland. And we all met in this town called Centralia, which is right in between Seattle and Portland. And it was awesome. It was like a throwback to the 50s in this little town, super adorable. And they had a roller skating rink. And I fell over backwards and hit the back of my
Oh,
head.
ouch.
So I
What?
have a
No.
little bit of a concussion, and I think you can tell because I'm kind of scattery. But I mean, I feel pretty good, just kind of resting up and not spending a lot of time in front of the light. Like even today, it's kind of seems really bright to me.
Mm.
But yeah, everything's just kind of moving along after everybody stayed for one night, and I was like, John, why don't you come up and we'll just kind of get away from Portland for a while. And we had a wonderful time. I spent the second night with him, and we kind of toured around and did all the same things, just a second time. We also found this really cool place. It was called Insert Coin. It's an arcade, and they had inside, so like typical arcade, whatever. But inside there they had a wall of beer,
Mm.
and it had a row of like, I don't know, 20 taps or something like that. And you would open a tab, and they give you like a card, and you would just slide the card in over the tap you wanted, and it would unlock it so that you could like do a taster of like all these different beers that were all in a row.
Uh-huh.
And I don't drink a lot of beer. That's not really my thing, but my husband he was loving it because you could get a little taster tray and like try 4 different beers and then go, and then you only paid per ounce, which was pretty cool.
Mm.
So, yeah. Anyway,
Well,
so
it's a nice precursor to, St. Patrick's Day.
absolutely, yeah, and so we had a good time. It was something we hadn't seen, that kind of thing, and playing video games is fun. It's like a throwback to the '80s, and sitting there playing car games. Like, I just love, like, those driving games. It's kind of a weird thing, I guess. Um, but yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it, other than the concussion, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just kept on trucking,
Yeah,
and then thankfully, I mean, thankfully it was pretty good, and it seems okay. I'm just a little dingy. But what else is new?
you still managed, right?
Still managed.
That's good.
And
You had a good time?
I had a blast. So
Yeah,
good. If you can get out, I know that eh, that some people are still worried about COVID and stuff, but if you can get out and see humans, it's really fun to get out and see humans. And
yeah,
these were all people that I had met at She Podcasts, and they were, just awesome, awesome people. So I was so happy to be there and had a really great time.
yeah.
So have you been watching the show? Do you know about any of the stuff I talked about, or
No,
have you been
it takes a good 15 minutes to reboot this computer, which is, it's when you start saying, "A new computer might be nice."
right? Right.
So,
Uh,
how'd
so
you
I
do?
kind of introduced the show and just started training because,
Mhm.
like, before Shelley, that's how the show went. I would just
Yeah,
start talking. So I had kind of spoken for quite a while about how to automate daily tasks.
nice.
And I believe and I talked about checklists, and I believe that's where Julia's comment came from. Checklist. So that so that's maybe telling. So I think it's important for you to now do your bit on the training,
On the
and
training.
I will. add quips and questions.
Well, and I think we talked a little bit before the show, before the computer shut down and we lost contact. But we said, what do you automate? You automate the things that you do the most often. What I do the most often, of course, is create content. So every time I start a new thing, I'm going to start creating this content now. I have to make a process for it. I have to make a checklist. I have to make, a scheduling on my, calendar. So, that I know, okay, on Mondays, I need to do this list of things in order to get to my shows on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So that's how I work, right? And some of the things that I automate are the post production of the show. For instance, once I post the show, once the show is up on YouTube and then we put it up on our podcast platform, then it automatically starts spreading out in the automated apps that I'm using, right? So, for instance, we use Podpage and we have the podcast and the videos going in there automatically. When I post a blog on Fridays, then my email sends it out to everybody automatically because of the RSS feed. So there's certain automations that I've set up that save me time because I know I was doing that every week manually. So that's something that I want to automate. So I start looking for those tools that can automate it for me without a whole lot of hands-on, playing around with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so social media distribution app, I've got a couple of those that I have set up with the feeds so that it takes my blog, my podcast, and my live stream and sends it out as social media posts, and I don't have to mess with it. So there's certain things that you really want automated because you do them all the time, and you don't want to have to keep doing it all the time when a machine can just take care of it for you.
Yeah, I work with a lot of people and they don't use a social media scheduler. Can we talk about that for just a second? That's
Yeah.
something I didn't talk about before. I talked a little bit about the podcast production, but a lot of people are hesitant about it because they feel like the algorithm you have to post natively inside the app or schedule inside the app to get the most visibility. Now, you might get a bump in visibility if you do that, but you also have to think about your time. Remember, when we talk about productivity and we talk about efficiency, we're always, especially as small businesses, like balancing that out. Like, what makes us more productive so that we can get products out the door, and sitting on social media isn't going to do it. And you don't really know, nobody really knows the optimal time for you to post. The a lot of the really good social media schedulers do it automatically and they
Mhm,
have all of the science behind it. So
mhm,
let them do it. Let it do its work. I use for the podcast, I use an app called Lately and it's wonderful. I upload the video from the show and it will automatically edit the video clips, and then it's all I edit the text so that it is, you know, more sounds like me, sounds like you, and it will post it out, and it's like little video clips along with a little quip, something pithy that we have said, and it's amazing. Like I would never go through and like edit out like the fun clips from the show. I mean, that would,
mhm. It takes a
but I
long
can.
time to
It
do,
takes
yeah.
a long time to do, but I can generate, across 5 platforms, you know, 10 or 20 posts per platform, in under an hour. I mean, it's like crazy, and then
Mhm,
all I have to do is let it do its thing. And then I go on to social media and I engage with people. And
mhm.
that's the part that people forget is like, then they just schedule it and then they kind of don't go. And then they're like, well, it doesn't work. Nobody left a comment. And it's like, well, did you go on social media to be social with people? like, and connect, especially on LinkedIn. If you connect with people and comment on other people's posts, then they're more likely to come back and look at what you're doing. Social media is community, but you don't want to just go on there so that you can post. You want to go on there so that you can be a part of the community. And then you have the posts rolling on an ongoing basis so that then you're building community when you're actually in the platform and not worrying about posting.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's nice to, like, you open up your LinkedIn and like, "Okay, well, this morning, my app, automatically posted this. Now what can I add to it?" Or, "Did somebody say something on it, and what can I add to what they said?" So, it's there already. The starting point is there for you, the foundation, so then you can just add to it, and it's so much easier than, trying to remember 10 times a day that you need to post on social media.
I know. I'm always astounded when when I still talk to people, and some people have been in business for a very long time and they still don't schedule their posts. So
Mhm.
it's a it's a very it's a very interesting thing for a lot of people. Although now Later has changed their free app. I used to really, tell people that they could use the free version of Later. That's different than Lately.
Mm,
I use Lately, which is
mhm.
totally different. Later is a really good scheduling app, and so is Buffer, kind of a oldie but a goodie. And they really know what they're doing. It will just help you and save you so much time. It doesn't have to be a heavy lift, a big cost, and then you can just go in there. Some of the platforms like Hootsuite and things like that are really good at like kind of monitoring, and you can engage from within their platform. Do it however it makes sense, but what I tell people is schedule all of your posts and then engage like in the morning and then in the afternoon and then call it a day. Like you don't need to be hanging out there all the time. That's a repeatable process that you can definitely plan out and automate your daily tasks.
Well, yeah, and I didn't so this last weekend, I was also, focused on editing the material that's gonna go into our next book, so I didn't spend the time on creating audiograms, so I got a little behind on that, and we do always all get behind on some things, but if you've got all of these automation apps set up for you, then you never need to worry that, "Oh, I didn't post on social media at all this week." Well, I did because it's already set up, and it took care of it for me, and even though I was super busy with, editing my book, and I was super busy with taking my husband to the doctor all week, and that's gonna be real hectic for the next 6 weeks. If you know
Yeah.
things like that are gonna take you away from things like posting on social media or sending out emails and, find ways to automate those tasks so that it continues to operate even with when you're not able to do hands-on with it.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons I'm looking at another platform for the Women Conquer Business website is because it will take some of that off. Like, yes, I could do an RSS feed to automatically post, like send out an active campaign. It's just not very pretty. So I have another app. I'm really focusing on the Women Conquer Business side on creating really good content. I want to find a really good content platform to put it on so that people can engage in a different way. And I'm tired of managing a WordPress website because now I'm managing two, one for Epiphany courses and one for Women Conquer Business. So I wanted to take some of the cost and some of the time out. And so I'm really looking at another website platform so that I can just do content over there, make it a really good reader experience. Maybe I give up a little on SEO, but probably not much. And then I just don't have to think about
Mhm.
it, and it just takes like a lot out of it. People come in, they subscribe. If they subscribe, then they get every new post in their inbox. It just makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
they if they want, what I like about I'm looking at a platform called Ghost, and it's also built for creators, and it will be a way to encourage people to help support the content. So as Women Conquer Business continues to morph, while I make more courses, it's just a it's just a process. So that's part of it too, is the things that you automate and change will change with you, and you have to be looking at that ever evolving process of what it is that's causing breakpoints or kinks in the system, so like Shelley said, you want to make processes, and you want to systematize things and make checklists, but those checklists are going to be changing, and that's why we can't always be over reliant on things like apps. That was something that you missed at the beginning. I was saying, yes, the apps work, and we'll talk about that next week, but sometimes they don't work or they stop working. And it's because oftentimes we, as the human element, haven't made the updates to the process to reflect it, or the tools we're using aren't really made for the new process.
Mm,
So there's just a lot to it. But when you can take the mundane and not think about it, oh man, I think that that's a great thing.
yeah, yeah. And I think the posting of your content and the onboarding type email sequences, these are the obvious things that you can automate and set up once, and then and then you just maintain. You do a little bit of maintenance every now and then when it needs it. But other than that, it's hands off. I can go focus on talking to my customers and doing the human things that I can do, and that apps can't do for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, if it's a repeatable process, right? If it's something that like an onboarding, like somebody's going to go get one of
Oh,
your
that's what
free
I talked
downloads.
about too.
Yeah. And they go get your free download, and you have that automated email sequence that onboards them. And
Yeah,
if there's anything additional that they should be getting, then you have that set up that it automatically, maybe there's an email that says, "Oh, how about we connect on Facebook?" or, whatever it is that continues to bring them deeper into your network. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and the other thing is, and the reason I mention onboarding too is because it's just like, why wouldn't you automate that? And also automate the other point I made earlier, and I'd like to get your take on this is, don't automate the things that are broken, automate the things that work and work well, so that that can be the thing that that's quicker, or you're picking up the most efficiency.
Yeah. Anything that's the same every time. If it's the same every time, it's just got to be it becomes part of your to do, and then done, 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 and it goes faster every week because your brain learns it and you don't have to think so much. For my emails and my LinkedIn newsletter, at the beginning it was slow, and I would change, tweak and change and tweak and change, and then I found something that I really liked as a format, and a method of doing it, and then I just follow that format each time, and that speeds things up. Even now it's not automatic and it's not completely the same, but once you have come to that decision about this is the format I like, this is what I'm sticking with, and all I have to do is change the original content in this spot and this spot, and then it can go out, and it's going to save you a lot of time of
Yeah.
reinventing the wheel every week.
Yeah, so it's like make processes and checklists and templates.
Yes, templates, that's the good word right there.
Processes, checklists, and templates. And it's so funny because when we figured out we could make a template and Captivate, it seemed to make show notes easier. When we figured out, every step of the way, we figure out things that make it easier.
Mm,
And that's the thing, as a business owner, you always want to be looking at those opportunities and figuring out if there are opportunities there to make things a little bit more efficient.
yeah, yeah. The caveat with that is, and I do this, so that's why I know, is you set it up and then you forget it, and then you never go back and look at it and see if it's still working or if it's like sending out the right things, or it's like, okay, you're done. I worked on you. That's all I have to do with you ever, and let me go do stuff that I like now. Meanwhile, it's sending out gobbledygook, and you're like, what?
As opposed to me, who's like, I'm going to tweak and tweak and tweak. I think that there has to be a happy medium between the two of us.
Mm,
Neither way works. You
mhm.
have to let it go, and at the same time, you have to check it sometimes.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to be babysat as much as I babysit things sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We have other things going on in our lives. I don't have time to
I
babysit apps.
I know. I know, but we've discussed previously I have an app problem, so
Mm,
I like apps.
mhm. And that's okay. And part of that is that you teach other people about apps, so you need to
Yeah,
stay, totally up to date on what's new, what works, why other things don't work, and why you should tell people, "Don't use this because blah, blah, it doesn't work," or "It worked for a minute and then it stopped," or whatever. You need to know that stuff because 'cause you're teaching it.
that's true.
Yeah. Like, I need to know all the latest and greatest in live streaming, so and then, of course, my computer shuts down.
That's a
But
computer thing.
because
I'm
you're
gonna blame the
learning, you're
Windows
ready.
update. I like to blame the Windows update for everything. It makes me
Yeah,
feel good. So
right?
that's what we'll do. We'll blame the
Mhm.
Windows update on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, I don't really have a lot else to talk about automating like daily
Mhm.
tasks, mostly because otherwise I'll start getting too deep into apps, and I know we're gonna talk about that. If I
Okay.
remember right, that's next week, right? We're talking about the apps, and then the
Mhm.
last week will be we need to figure out who we're profiling, but we'll be profiling somebody,
Yeah, yeah.
and so we need to get on that.
There's
Do you
so
have
many
anything
good
else to
ideas.
add on automating tasks?
Um, no, I just think that it's something that, people need to really think about how much time they're saving and time is money, and how much money are you saving, and then spend some of that on the app that's going to, do all that work for you. If it's not an app, then maybe it's a VA, but you need that. You need to free up some of that time so that you can spend that time on prospecting and those calls with potential clients, and then delivering your service,
Delivery. Yeah.
right? Because that's where you're making money. Yeah.
And I would say that it's because you have made some processes and some checklists that you were able to create that book, Women in Podcasting. Is that right?
Exactly. That's right. Toby has been doing this for years and years and years. And when we decided, hey, we're going to go to this conference, let's get something out of it because, we're putting money and time into it. Let's get something out of it. What can we do? Well, it's a bunch of podcasters. So why don't we interview them, use the interviews on our podcast, and then we transcribe the interviews and make all that material into a book. And we could do that all in one weekend. So it was really all about making the best use of our time and money. Uh, we bring every last ounce of content out of everything that we can. We went there, we did the interviews, we took photos, we talked about it on our show, we shared those interviews. We had the women back on the show to talk about their interviews and their experience at the She podcasts, and then we, transcribed everything, put it into a book format, and they have the book out. So it it just grows and it grows, and before you know it, you have a whole bunch of content that you created just in one weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can people get that book?
Oh, that book is available on Amazon. It's called Women in Podcasting: The Messages and Methods Interviews. And if you go to books.agkmedia.com, I'm sorry, .studio, agkmedia.studio. Where did this come from? Now I'm the one with the concussion. I can't remember. Okay,
It's
books.
spreading. Oh, no.
agkmedia.studio. And you will go right to our books. And every time we add more books, they'll still be in there. So you can continue to use that. That's
Yeah, and we'll put a link in the show notes so
Yeah.
that you'll be able to click on that, whether you find us online or through the website, womenconquerbiz.com/podcast. You'll find all of the old episodes there. And I'm thinking, let me know what you think about this, Shelley. I was
Mhm.
thinking, what if we put like a Google Cal reminder so people could remember when we're online if they wanted to do that, like a link to do that. I was thinking about that today.
Wait, I don't understand.
So if people are like, I want to
Explain.
always catch the show
Yeah.
at 10 a.m. Pacific or 11 a.m. on Thursdays,
Uh-huh.
Mountain. What if we put a link so people could save that
Oh, yeah.
in their Google
Cool.
Calendar?
I don't know
That
how to
seems
do
like
that,
that
but
would be
maybe
cool.
I'm sure you
I
must.
I think I know how to do it. Seems like an efficiency. I don't know.
Yeah.
And as we also talked about earlier, find the right marketing tools for your small business. Even though I help people find the absolute right tool, it's still really important for you as business owners to know the right questions to ask somebody like me. So, and to really communicate with us about what your needs are. And that's exactly what this course is about. It's one of our first offerings out of Epiphany Courses, which is my second business. And I would say that if you have ever bought the wrong piece of software even once, then definitely go out and get this course. It's $75. That is less than the cost of that $20 a month app that you bought that isn't working for you.
Mm.
So really, really think about that. And looks like we have a comment here. What is this?
Somebody likes my voice.
Oh, somebody likes your voice.
I get that
I
a lot.
know. It's like smooth as butter and I and then and then I start talking not smooth as butter.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you, Gross. I I take that as a compliment.
I don't know what ASMR videos are, but
ASMR is, when they make those interesting sounds and they have the quiet whispering type voices and yep. Okay.
oh, like the sleep podcast where people tell stories and they
You can't
talk.
even hear that.
So
Yeah. Or you make funny sounds, like
soothing sounds. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that doing you could do really good meditation videos
I
and
have some up if you wanna go to my, YouTube
really?
channel. I do. I have meditation video
Oh, well, we should definitely
affirmations, meditations. Yeah, all that
we
stuff.
should definitely you definitely have the voice for that.
Thanks.
So I would yeah, we'll put links to that in the show notes too.
Okay. Betcha.
The meditations. I would like to anytime I try to do my NPR voice, people laugh. So clearly I don't have that either. But hey, you know what? We can't all be Shelley Carney.
I think you have a good voice. It's just you're usually more energetic and excited, and I'm like, "Ah, nah."
Hey,
I
even
don't know.
keel, man. Even
Yeah, even
keel.
keel. That's me. Yeah.
So I think that yeah, so we'll definitely put links to that. Gross is saying that you should market your vault of treasures. Um she doesn't have to cut out Toby.
It's all on my YouTube channel, so check it out, people.
So
Shelley
yeah, it's
Carney,
all there.
live stream coach.
And did we say happy St. Patrick's Day? The
Yeah,
Carney and the McFarland? I mean,
that's right.
that's a big deal. I should probably put some green on. Or is it red so my husband will kiss me? Hmm.
Oh, I've always heard green you have to wear green on St. Patrick's Day or you will get pinched.
Or you'll get pinched, right?
Yeah, that's what I
Hmm.
was always told.
Yeah, I need to I'm making corned beef and cabbage.
Uh-huh,
My
yeah.
husband requested that. I need to
Toby
go
made
and
that, yesterday and took a, Instagram photo of it. It's really cool. If you go visit Toby's Instagram or Facebook, you'll see that photo of the St. Patrick's Day celebration. Yeah.
that's so cool. Well, and I was telling Shelly before the show started that my dad did all this work on Ancestry and the McFarlands were marauders. What we would do in Ireland is when it was like the moonlight, we would go out and steal stuff, I guess,
Oh, yeah,
by
yeah,
moonlight. I
yeah.
mean, that's who that's who the McFarlands were. So we were that kind of sort.
Well, I
So I
think they
guess
got it from the Vikings. I think the Vikings and the Irish kind of intermingled, and it became that way of life, and it wasn't uncommon. And it was something fun to do. I think they stole sheep back and forth, and oh, the McFarlands stole our sheep again. Oh, we'll have to get out there and steal it back, and
Oh, wow. I
There's
don't
one
know which county. We're still working on that. So when my dad passed away, I took over the ancestry account, and we don't know. We haven't. We know we're Irish. We don't know which county. Maybe I should go. Maybe I should go to Ireland and just be like, "So did we steal your stuff?" I don't know. I don't. I don't know. With my personality, because I'm so cheeky, it's not surprising that, centuries later, the marauders would be just this cheeky old broad who likes to make jokes all the time. That's probably not surprising. So, yeah, I don't know which county. Still working on it. Ancestry is like super fun and interesting, and I love seeing all of the pictures of my grandparents from when they were teenagers, from like yearbooks and stuff, because it picks it all up. And but yeah, going back and like, oh yeah, I can go to some pubs and they'll tell you exactly where you're from.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So absolutely, that
Well,
would be super
some of
fun.
these names like Carney, for instance, are not only very common, they're spelled in many different ways. So they have the Kearney, the Carney without
Yeah.
the E, and yeah, so it's
Yeah, it's like, McFarland,
mm,
McFarlane,
mhm, mhm.
all of that, it's changed over time, or maybe when we came to America, the person at Ellis Island spelled it differently, there's all kinds of stuff. So, do you so I didn't change my name when I got married, so I've always been a
Mm.
McFarland.
Oh,
Have you always been a Carney?
no, I was a Dalton before.
Oh, wow.
Dalton is yeah.
What's
So, and
that?
it's kind of, I don't know, English. I've told it's English. I'm told it's I'm told it's, French, D. Alton, and so I don't know. I haven't my
Yeah.
my mom and my daughter have been working on the genealogy together, and, so it's quite interesting. My mom's family is all German. It's
Yeah.
Kevin's family, my husband's family, that's the Irish, actually.
It's interesting. So on my mom's side, it was all recorded a lot more, probably because of the places and things. It's mostly Swiss. So I'm very Swiss. That can be traced. But my dad's side, I don't know, I guess they didn't keep as good of records to go back, to Ireland, but the Swiss and the Germans, they kept records. So, that
Oh,
side of the family is pretty well known. But this is a pretty cool thing. So, gross pork found his mother's, or hers, I don't know, natural father, birth father, that way. Like, you can find people through
mhm, mhm.
ancestry. It's so cool. We haven't really had anybody who was lost, but it's mostly that the records just kind of drop off. And I think that what I need to do is go out and there's some way that you can chat on Ancestry and like
Yeah,
ask people and try and like gather more information. And I haven't done that yet. So maybe we can find out more by going out and doing that.
mhm.
It's just so interesting.
Yeah.
And I
My
just
my
didn't
my
want it to.
mom's family and my, husband's brother and my daughter have kind of all gathered together on that. I guess it's the Ancestry.com one or whatever it is. It's one of those sites
Yeah.
where they get together and they share all the information, and here I've got this, and every now and then there's a big information dump and everybody's like, "Whoa," So, yeah, it's cool. It's really a cool way to meet family.
Oh, yeah. No, totally.
Did you wanna do, your,
Tweak.
tweak of the week
Do you
here?
want to do tweaks of the week? Oh,
The
yeah. The
week.
sound. The sound effects are back because Shelly's back. I had no
Yay.
sound effects. So, do you wanna do yours first?
Yeah, I'll just yesterday, and this happens every week when we have a live guest. We're never sure 100% if they're gonna show up, so we like to have a backup.
Yeah.
So I'll throw together a show, and what I'll usually do is start with Google Slides, and, we have a template that we use, and then I'll have a episode topic, and I'll just start plugging things into the slides, and it just kinda all comes together, as I'm creating these slides. And in an
Mhm.
hour, I have a presentation with slides, and the slides have information and stats and photos and all of this, and I can put it all together in an hour now because I've been doing it so many times. It comes really quickly. But we have other people who use like PowerPoint, and it doesn't look as good on screen as if you have Google Slides. And another thing you can do with Google Slides is that you can import them into StreamYard, and then just click on the button, and when they shift over, it makes a nice presentation. So if that's something that you're interested in doing for your live stream, it's a really great tool for that.
Oh, that's really cool. I did notice that we could upload decks into,
Mhm.
StreamYard. I was wondering if you'd ever done that, so that's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah.
Yeah, my tweak of the week is Ghost. Now, it's hard to call that a tweak of the week. It's not a new app. A lot of times I talk about new. Ghost has been around since 2013, and it was started as a Kickstarter campaign by a former WordPress employee. They were looking for a different way to produce websites, and it is like 100% a creator blogger platform. It's built around, having a paywall on certain content, getting memberships, on providing the best reading experience for people. It's got a tie-in with AMP, which is, it may or may not be going away. It depends on what you read, but AMP is accelerated mobile pages, so making it go really quickly on your phone.
Mm,
And it is something I'm exploring for the Women Conquer Business website because, like I said, I want something that is hosted and that I'm not worried about self-hosting anymore. I don't have to manage all of the security updates. My website has grown into a behemoth that is actually pretty expensive to keep every year, and Ghost would be a cost saving for me. But most importantly, I think it's a real opportunity to provide a really good reading experience for people, a really good way to have a clean, easy website that isn't overwhelming, that doesn't have all the bells and whistles, that could really help people participate in conversations that I think are important. So, in terms of how that kinda ties into, like, what we've been talking about, like, it will be, if it works, I'm still testing it, it would be a way for me to automate some tasks. It would relieve some stress, which I think would help it with on an efficiency standpoint.
mhm,
And I'm shifting my business and the values of the businesses, and this seems like a step toward that as well. So it kind of hits on like all the cylinders of productivity that we've been talking about. So that's my tweak of the week. I think it is something that we all need to do. Like sometimes you just have to look at things and say there has to be another way of doing this so that it can be
mhm.
easier.
Yeah, especially those things that are frustrating you and taking up too much time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that it frustrates me, it's that it just takes too much time. Like
Mhm.
just being able to kind of go boom, podcast episode done, and it
Yeah,
still looks pretty, and I don't have to do anything to make it look pretty.
yeah.
And it's also a really clean interface for someone. I know that you're not on WordPress, not WordPress.org, I don't think, and
Right, right,
but it
right.
is it looks like what it is, which is like something that was developed by a bunch of nerdy coders who wanted to do a blog, and
Mm,
it's never really been updated. And this is just way easier. It's just
mhm,
easier.
mhm,
So there are some drawbacks, and that's the other part of researching. But yeah, there's got to be an easier way, and I think that when you look at your productivity, sometimes that's really, it's also about your mental health and what's
mhm.
gonna make it easier for you to deliver,
Right.
and, you know, that's what I think, and so that's why that's my tweak of the week. I'm still looking at it, trying to
Mhm,
to make a decision.
mhm. Yeah, well, keep us posted on that. And what does that cost, Ghost?
So it depends on which lane you
Mhm.
do. I would be doing the team one just so that I can pay for get them to do the migration for me.
Mm, mhm.
from WordPress.
Mhm.
And so that one is more expensive, but I think that one's like $50 a month. But I could, after the migration, then downgrade to the creator plan, which is, I believe, $25 a month.
Okay.
So, but even at like $50 a month, that's cheaper than my current website.
Mhm. Yeah. Good.
Which when I started calculating it out, I'm like, "That's really expensive."
Mm.
You
Mhm.
know? And so there's always a better way. I think that that's why I always get a little angry when people say WordPress websites are free. I'm like, "No, they're not." It's such a lie.
Well,
So,
WordPress.com can be free, as long as it's their basic level, and yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
But yeah, as Jen said, if you're going for the WordPress.org, it is a lot of work, and you need a lot of knowledge to be able to run those websites, and they can be very expensive.
And I'm not managing other people's websites anymore,
Mhm,
so I don't
mhm.
really wanna manage my own
Yeah.
anymore either. So, uh,
Give me a simple solution that
simple.
doesn't cost a lot of money, and I'm happy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Excellent. Are you ready for inspiration now?
Yes.
Today I was reading my daily Stoic book, and I've enjoyed this. I'm going to share it with everybody. If your choices are beautiful, so too will you be. And that was a quote from Epictetus. I'm not sure how you say his name, Epictetus. But the Stoics urge us to consider not how things appear, but what effort, activity, and choices they are a result of.
Mm.
So if you look good, physically good because, you're doing a lot of physical work, and you're being productive. Say, like, I have a huge, huge, huge backyard, and all summer long pull weeds, right? And at the end of the summer, it looks pretty good. It's starting to weed up again. Well, the beauty of it isn't just that it looks nice and weed free. The beauty of it is all the work that I put into it to make it that way. The getting up every Saturday morning and pulling weeds and filling up the trailer with weed and garbage from the yard, and then taking the trailer once a month to the dump, and this is
Yeah,
all the work and the choices that went into making the yard look nice. So, the same can be true with your business, right? The choices that you pick, the things that you pick to work with, and all the content that you're creating, and the whole beautiful business is the product of all your time, effort, and you know, all the things that you put into it, all those decisions that you're making every day.
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I love that it's also the activity. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
so
is.
great.
It's like the journey is the important part, right? It's not the destination, it's the journey. We keep hearing that. And sometimes we just need to hear it in 10 different ways before we really begin to grasp that concept.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank all of you for being here, and we hope that you'll come back next week and watch or listen.
And I'll do my best to be there on time this time.
No, that's okay. It's how the world works. We always have to be prepared for the unexpected.
That's right. And look,
So
I put the banner up. I'll show you how to do that in case this happens again.
so thank you so much. Have a great week, everybody.
Okay. Here we go. And yeah, bye-bye. Thank you for joining the Women Conquer Business podcast, hosted by Shelley Carney and Jen McFarland. Please subscribe and leave a comment or question regarding your most challenging content creation or business problem. Then share this podcast with family and friends so they can find the support they need to expand their brand and share their message with the world. Check the show notes for links to valuable resources and come back again next week.